Thanks.
Thank you. So, so for today's panel, we're going to be looking at what's happening with labor rights and democracy in Southeast Asia and East Asia. And of course, I'm sure all of you are aware that as we sit here and talk, there is a rather major struggle around democracy occurring in Hong Kong. But we're also going to learn, I think, that there's some very important things happening in the Republic of Korea and in Thailand as well. I think in fact, there will be an emergency resolution when we reconvene on the subject of Hong Kong. And as you know, the AFT has itself recently passed a resolution on that subject. And so we have here three gentlemen, and I'm going to do my level best to pronounce their names correctly. But I know that they will forgive me if I don't get it quite right. We have the International Secretary of the Korean Teachers and Educational Workers Union, Han Soo Hwang. We have the Vice President of the Hong Kong Professional Teachers Union, Tin Fung Chok. And we have the Program Manager of the Solidarity Center for Thailand, Pia Kritarakarana.
Close enough.
In the ballpark. And so our format was to pose some questions to our guests and have them talk about what's happening in their countries and the challenges. So all three of you come from different parts of East Asia and Southeast Asia that have seen some progress towards democratic governance over recent decades, with some increased respect for labor rights and political freedom. But I think it's also fair to say more recently has experienced some reversals and setbacks. One, I think, could even argue that the future of democracy and free and independent unions somewhat hangs in the balance in each of your contexts. Could you briefly begin by describing the threat to progress towards democracy your unions face? Yes, you can start.
My name is Han Soo Hwang. I am International Secretary of Korean Teachers Union, KTU, and thank you so much for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share what is going on in the trade union, in terms of trade union rights for teachers in South Korea with you. So I would like to start by saying the current situation of the South Korean teachers union sectors. So KTU, our membership is currently 50,000, and the membership, we have 50,000 memberships, but we lost our union representation maybe 6 years ago. So in 2013, the former government, the president, the woman president at that time, her government canceled our union registration in 2013 on the grounds that the KTU allowed 9 dismissed teachers to keep our union membership. So at that time, our membership was 60,000 members, and so at the government said because we allowed 9 dismissed teachers, just 9 dismissed teachers, to keep our union membership. That was the main reason to delegalize the Korean Teachers Union. It's a very horrible situation, and so at that time, almost 60,000 union members, we voted to follow the government order or to stand up with our 9 dismissed teachers who were working the KTU head office at that time. So we decided to stand up with 9 dismissed teachers, and then our union was delegalized at that time. So until now, we are still fighting to get our union registration back, but so still we are fighting. And anyway, so the president at that time, who decertified our union registration, canceled our union registration, she is in jail now. So in 2016, there was a big demonstration. People are holding candles in Seoul, downtown Seoul City, and so because of the president's corruption and scandals. Anyway, so thanks to the people's protest, the National Assembly, they impeached the president, and now she is in prison now. So yes, actually, when she was the lawmaker long time ago, she had very hostile attitude against the teachers' unions, especially KTU. So at that time, so there was a very famous saying made by her, and so she said she compared the teachers' union members as harmful insects in this society. and then later she became the president and she canceled our union registration. Yeah, so that is the current situation.
Okay. Well, so my name is Pia from Sorai Center, Thailand, and thank for the opportunity to speak here. And so the questions, like we mentioned that we had, like Leo mentioned that we had some progress in the past, and now we are facing setback. But I would like to go into the detail that even when we had the progress, what progress was really like, and I understand Leo said that to be brief, but I might spend some time on this because I want to give the fundamental picture of the whole problem, and I believe that when I explain this for the later question, I could spend less time on it. So I think at first you have to understand that the rise of so-called democracy in Thailand happened in 1990s after the Black May protest, that we were able to get rid of the military from Thai politics, and that would last from 1991 to 2016. That was the 15 years that we didn't have military government, which was the longest period of Thailand. And during this 15 years, we saw a development in political party system, and we had some kind of democratic and human rights reform. However, it did not last long, and it was also problematic in itself because back then, in terms of political party, you look at the political party in Thailand, it was usually divided into the group that the first group is called Thai Democrat Party. It's called Thai Democrat, but most of them are the richest from the south and the elite in Bangkok, the elite and maybe some kind of a royal connection in Bangkok, and they tend to have a conservative social value, but some of them have neoliberal economic values. However, we had the other group. They're more like a local political or influential figures in the north and northeast, and there are more of this group. So this group command loyalty from people in their own area, in their respective area, in the was the kind of a patronage system, father figure, or some even said it was still a bit like feudal-like system. And for this group, they didn't have loyalty to one party. They would switch to the party that would offer them the best return after the election. So they were the decisive factor that helped several people such as Chawlit Yongchayut or Banhan Silpa Acha become Prime Minister of Thailand, because they would switch to the party that would offer them the best return. However, this landscape changed when Thaksin Shinawatra became involved with Thai politics in late 1990s because Thaksin was, at first Thaksin became in power by getting this group like the kind of local politician from the north and northeast into his party, Thai Rak Thai party. But later Thaksin would become so charismatic that he was able to command loyalty from people mostly in the north and northeast to himself without these politicians and back then. And also Thaksin also adopted several progressive policies such as national health care, but Thaksin himself was not a socialist or workers' rights, human rights champion. He was a businessman who also ran his business through his nominee and family while he was a PM, and he knew how to play his populist policy to his interest. So after that, however, after military came back to power after 2006 and 2014 coup, so just like to mention, civilian government was never workers' rights or human rights champion, and there was a group of elite and business people. And after Thaksin became the prime minister, that was right after Asian financial crisis and the involvement of the IMF, International Monetary Fund to Thailand. So Hel Thaksin also able to apply many of his neoliberal economic models, such as privatizing state-owned enterprise, liberalizing the financial sector, and privatization of public university, and using more precarious subcontract workers. So again, so also with this, just like to point out that even when we were the civilian democratic government, there was not a real human right. It was more still elite-run political party and later into a neoliberal party. But however, I'm not equating the civilian democratic to the military government, because nowadays, as you are seeing, it's getting worse with the military government, and now it has become a concern that because back then in 1990, we believe that one of the factors that we helped get rid of the military was that because of the business people tend to see the military as being obstacle to their profit making ability. But I think after 15 years of democratic government, now there are lots of business groups see that the military actually helping them doing a lot of things that democratic civilian government could not do, such as now there's a plan to build a lot of new socio-economic zone, coal power plant that you have to get rid of people, you have to force people out of their home. I think with democratic government was not able to do it. So right now the military government they just easily get rid of people in their home. And also with the labor situation, there's also many laws that recently enacted during the military government, such as Public Assembly Act, that's supposed to control political protests. But when it happens, not only doesn't matter when you have strike, the employer will call the government and say that this group look like they have political protests, and police will come and take care of you. And now we have a high use of the Computer Crime Act that used along with criminal defamation. So now you post anything against your employer on internet online, that you're likely to be sued with this law with lots of defamation claim. So giving all that, so just like to point out that it was not we had some democracy, but in terms of human rights and workers' rights were never a real priority, and now it's even scarier because back then you have some leverage in terms to bargain with the government, but with this military government, they tend to have they call it a new marriage between military and big business that's scary for all workers' rights and human rights activists.
Listen, I'm Fong Chak from Hong Kong. Yes, nice to meet you. So I think the main problem is the description, the progress towards more democratic form. But actually, everyone know in Hong Kong that we are just stepping back, or the case is more worse after the handover on 1997. Nowadays, the main challenge was the main threat is actually from Beijing, and well, we know because of the undemocratic political structure and the institution, we do not have a democratic election. Maybe you will know in the University of Hong Kong, the vice chancellors want to promote a professor in law school to be the deputy vice chancellor, but that is rejected by the school board, and the school board is actually appointed by the chief executive of Hong Kong. So that's a big problem in academic freedom, because traditionally, in the British colonial tradition, the school board is just you give me the suggestion, and I will totally accept. But nowadays, they use their power to reject your suggestion with some ridiculous reasons, just some about he does not have enough qualification or something like that. But all we know is that professor, the only reason they reject the professor is because he always criticized Beijing, and he was in the Civic Party in Hong Kong, which is a large political party in the so-called pan-democratic camp. And also, 2 public opinion research center is closed after the people in charge are retired. They closed the research center, just they have the pretexts about the resources or something. But actually, we know that those public opinion programs are always criticized by some people from Beijing also. So it is in the university that the academic freedom is such a problem, and also in the secondary school or primary school curriculum. For example, I'm a liberal studies teacher. In Hong Kong, liberal studies is a subject which we discuss some social issue, climate change or the political issue, or in China, poverty in China, something like that, and globalization, something like that, and critical thinking. And so, the people from the Beijing camp criticize us. Your subject, teach the students, and the students go onto the streets to be the protester. So that's a problem. That this curriculum have a problem. So we need to suspend it. But I think also in the research by some scholar in the university, the curriculum is okay, because it makes the students more concerned with society and more moderate for new immigrants or something like that. But they just attack the curriculum without any evidence, just because for the political reason. So go back to the questions. It's about the threat to union and also the political situation. I think I just have some examples, so you may know the situation in Hong Kong. Okay.
So I think unions internationally have this proud tradition of being part of movements for democracy, and within our lifetimes, or maybe I should say my lifetime, because not everybody is as old as me, but in my lifetime, from Poland to South Africa to Chile to Tunisia, one could say that democratic governments only won out, and authoritarian governments only fell because of the role of unions. And so I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how your union sees itself in relationship to this democratic movement, and also if there's tensions that arise between being, on the one hand, a representative of teachers in their professional and work lives, and on the other hand, this kind of larger democracy mission. You want to start?
So Korean teachers, so the main reason is currently the South Korean president and the ruling party is not the authoritarian government. This is a liberal government, and so after candlelight revolution, the new government was established. The human rights lawyer, he was a human rights lawyer, and so he is now the president. Current president is making the relationship between North Korea and South Korea is more peacefully. He wants to solve the problem, and so one of the main reasons why the Korean Teachers Union was delegalized was that we teacher unions are always at the front line. Right wing supporters and the left wing, and so teacher union always stood in front. That's why we are targeted by the right wing government and the president, woman president, who is in prison now, but yes, as you mentioned, the teachers union union members are always they are the main force of the candlelight revolutions at the time, 2 years ago. And so our colleagues, we went to the street and with other citizens. We are real main force of the revolutions. And now, yes, so I heard from yesterday, the day before yesterday, from the Philippines, Raymond, and the other situation in Brazil, and so comparing to the situations, Korean situation is a little bit better than, even though we don't have any trade union rights, because the South Korea has 17 provinces. Each province has the education superintendent. And so it's kind of the education superintendent controls everything in the province. And so among the 17 provinces, 14 provinces, the super education intendant are the pro-KTU and there are former KTU members. So in the provincial level, regional levels, the teachers union members are really active to education reform. And we are working together with the education offices because the superintendents are the former KTU presidents, and so in the regional level, so we are taking lead in education reforms and many things.
What type of reforms?
So we are now education in South Korean education really competitive. Compared to go to the top universities, and so we are making the competitive education system to the more cooperative education systems. So we call the innovative school movement. Now we are taking the lead in innovative school movement. It means that the more cooperative atmosphere, so we are making, and so no standardized testing, and so so the new government 2 years ago, after the candlelight revolution, the government canceled and they abolished the standardized testing, and so they are now the teachers' merit payment is the government is trying to abolish the teacher merit system, and so we are the innovative school education movement, and so not the competitive education system.
Thanks.
So I'd just like to mention that now in Thailand we don't have teacher union because for the public teacher, our right to organize and to be a member of union of the civil servants has been prohibited since 1975 under 1975 Labor Relations Act, and our private school teacher in 2000 during Thaksin Shinawatra they enact a law like a private university law and private school law that don't recognize right to organize and right to be a union member for the teacher. So right now we don't have teacher union in Thailand. We have group of teachers that associate as the association and try to do some of the union work, but they're not covered they're not protected by Labor Relations Act. And that's also the reason why people say that Thai labor movement has been very weak, that we have about 1.5% union density, which among the lowest in the world, because we don't have civil servant union and we don't have the teacher union. And in terms of a labor movement, involvement with politics and with democracy movement, I think back then in 1991 when we were getting rid of the military, that was when you saw the union involvement, because I think all of them protest against the military government back then, especially after 1991, that when military outlaw union in state-owned enterprise workers. So that was a unity solidarity among the labor movement to fight the military. And after that, there was, as I mentioned, the 15 years that we didn't have military involvement in the politics. But during this time, there was the period of like human rights reform, democratic reform. But I think it was reforming from back then the military control state into more neoliberal state. And even when we were a democratic country, you can see that lots of unions get attacked. And you can, if you look at IO Committee on Freedom of Association, there are lots of complaints filed on Thai government that happened during this democratic government as well. And also, like during that 15 years that we didn't have military involvement, there was some union trying to be involvement with the political parties, but it was not successful, because I think the major party is still owned by the business and by the elite group. And also like when, as I mentioned, Thaksin Shinawatra, there was I think during that time, it's like a state, we have a strong union in state-owned enterprise, not civil servant, but state-owned enterprise like railway and airway and all of that. I think when Thaksin came into power, one of his plan was to privatize all the state-owned enterprise. So most if not all of the state-owned enterprise union, which among the strongest union in Thailand, they associate in solidarity against Thaksin. And back then, I think Thaksin was able to privatize the petroleum authority, and he tried with electricity generating authority, which he failed. But however, after that, it's kind of like got divided a little bit, because lots of union came out against Thaksin, but somehow I think there was some confusion that they thought that capitalism and military dictatorship is like one or the other. If like you choose to be against capitalism, you're not against military dictatorship, or if you choose to be against military dictatorship, you're not against capitalism. However, I think it's been like probably almost 15 years. I think nowadays they should see clearly, because in the 5 years of military regime, nobody benefit from this military government more than the corporation in Thailand. And Thailand now has become the most unequal country in the world in terms of wealth, because 1% of our country owns 60% of the wealth. And in the previous election, I think we saw some of union become more involved with trying to run for the election. Our partner, who has number but not really financially strong, tried to run to what is called Social Democrat Party. They were not much successful because they didn't have good resources. However, that's an interesting case. You might have heard of this party called Future Forward Party, ran in the previous election and did quite well. And some of the union got involved with this party, and this party were able to get 4 former union leaders into the parliament, which never happened before. And this party has unlimited resources and personal charisma of the party leader, Thanathorn. So Thanathorn, when he was a student activist, but he was born in the Thai Summit Corporation, a big corporation that also had 2 plants in the US, in Michigan and in Kentucky. But now he left his corporation, and he running political party trying to run a lot of like progressive socialist agenda. So some of the union got involved with him, but some of the unions still skeptical. At some of them still. Thanathorn himself from the Thai Summit Auto Part, and one of the IO complaint on union busting happened with Thai Summit back then 2008, and nowadays, and most of the fund that he run the party come from Thai Summit. So some of the unions still skeptical if like they should trust this corporation trust fund baby that much. But however, so again, this kind of like the youth state of union involvement with politics at this moment in terms of the teacher unions. Like unfortunately, like we don't have one, and now we're trying to reform the law and trying to like. There's also lots of international pressure, ILO complaint or some other trade pressure for Thailand to reform labor law to meet with international standards.
So just to clarify, it doesn't matter whether teachers are in public schools or private schools, neither of them have the right to organize?
No, neither.
Okay.
I think private school they used to, but since the new law come in 2003, that it's like a private school act which say that labor relation act does not cover private school teachers. So no, not.
Okay.
Yes, in Hong Kong, the teachers' unions, okay, for my union is in the pan-democratic camp. Maybe many of you know the Mr. Sito Wah, the founder of our union, is actually an icon of the Hong Kong democratic movement and Chinese democratic movement. So he also founder of the Democratic Party in Hong Kong. So nowadays we are still so we have a legislative councillor in the legislative council, okay, because of we did not have universal suffrage, but we have some seats. Half of the council is so-called the functional constitute elected by different occupation. So there is a seat for education sector. We always win that seat from the founder, Mr. Sito Wah, and now is KY Ip. So the councillor Ip is now not the member of the Democratic Party, but we are still keep contact, and normally the pan-democratic camp councillors will vote with our opinions in education issue. So just for the education issue, we are good to with the other parties. So nowadays for the democratic movement, we are taking a backup role, I think, in some campaign or in different movement. Just like we will provide a bank account actually. We have many bank account, and we can provide it to some movement or campaign. Okay, you need fundraising or whatever, because it's hard to register a new account for those campaigns to have the fundraising. So we will give them or sponsor some drama in school about Tiananmen incident in 1989. So that's something we are taking just like a backup role in the civic society. And also we go to strike and we go to demonstration as the union. But not many Hong Kong people like to demonstrate, like to go to the protest and say they are teacher, I think. They just go because of they are citizens, so they will not follow the banner. They will not go under the banner of the union, but they just go protest themselves in Hong Kong. We do not want to affect the job actually in the Chinese culture, whatever. Okay, and but there are some challenge, I think, maybe in the strategies in the Legislative Council, because actually we are at the pan-democratic camp is a majority in the society, but under the political institution we are minority in the Legislative Council. So
it sounds like us in the United States.
We can just do something, maybe the civil disobedience or something in the council, so to stop the bill or to try to stop the bill, but always cannot do that, or just like a filibuster or something. But okay, that is a case. Around 2017, I think, the government disqualified some councillors, yes, just because they do not follow the rules of the oath, okay, the councillor oath. So they disqualify the councillors, which is about the people in Hong Kong can decide our future, something like that. Okay, you may know Demosisto, Joshua Wong, or his friend. So at that time, some of the protesters and some councillors want to try to stop the government budget. Yes, because we will only have the right to vote for the budget. Actually, we cannot stop any bill. But in that budget, there are around, I think, $50 billion for education. So for us, there is a big challenge because many of the supporters want to stop the budget, but for the union, there are new money in the budget. So we try to make compromise, but always eventually those people vote against the budget. But okay, we can just vote abstention. Yes, because there's some different relation and strategies with the government. So that is some challenge because in the political system. Yes. Okay, I think just a case here.
Thank you. So I think we have a little bit of time today. If anybody has any questions you would like to ask any of our guests. Dan?
So to follow up on the South Korea, I'm curious about the status of the union. Was that a constitutional act? The decertification of your union was within the frame allowable under the Constitution, and is there a legal pathway? I guess what I'm wondering is your path forward only political change, or is there a legal pathway that you may pursue? Is that clear?
Yeah. So the Korean Constitution allows the labor rights to the all workers, but there is the Teachers Union Act. Teachers Union Act allows only active teachers to join the teachers union. Active teachers. It means not dismissed retired teachers. That is the main things. So, but in the general labor sectors, there was no that kind of the law clause. So, we think that because the teachers or the workers at the factory, when they were fighting against the corrupted owners, and so they were dismissed, fired, and then they still become union members and they're fighting against and so. But the only Teachers Union Act is allowed only active teachers to keep their union membership. But so that is very dead close. The ILO and other international bodies, they said they recommended the clause that is the exact violation of the international labor standards. The only active, and so, yeah, of course, the current president and current political parties, they are very pro KTU and they want to solve this case, but they want to. So anyway, so KTU case is under the Supreme Court case. They are waiting for the decision of the Supreme Court now, and so but the Supreme Court is continue to delay their decisions. And the other one to solve this case is to by ratifying the ILO conventions, the 87 and 98. That is the current president's solution. And so after the ratified ILO Convention 87 and so freedom of association, so our case will be solved. But it will take a lot of time. So the National Assembly should agree. And so this is the president's approach is different. So we are a little bit disappointed about the president.
So there was a large number of firings that were at issue here. It wasn't just a few people. There was like mass firings of KTU members. Yes.
So I'm curious, what is the role of international allies in supporting your work or helping you push back? Are there international, either unions or just citizens from different countries? Are there some places where it's helpful? Are there some regions where it's completely unhelpful for people to weigh in? Like, what's been happening in that space?
In other words, what can we do to
What can
support
we do
you?
to help? Okay.
Not heard.
So in Hong Kong, actually, I think you know the big projects, and we have submitted. Actually, not me, but Taiwan and KTU submitted the urgent resolution and may discuss tomorrow. And I think AFT will be one of the speakers. Yes, thank
Yes.
you. And actually, thank you the AFT resolution about Hong Kong. But that's the case. I think it is difficult to support Hong Kong because all things is from Beijing. And but okay, the union, our union is not yet discussed, but I think there are act in U.S. Congress about Hong Kong. Maybe that called the Human Rights and Democracy Congress by a Republican and also from the other party, the Democrats. Yes, and because there is a China Congress in UK, yeah, actually Chinese committee, yeah, something like that. So I think you may concern about the act, but actually it is never discussed in my union, so I cannot say anything. But that is some Hong Kong politician is still looking about that. Yeah. And also I think the pressure from different countries is important for the issue in Hong Kong now, because we are going into anarchy. Yes, and maybe the Chinese army will come, what they said yesterday.
So for the South Korean cases, so what was the most helpful for KTU was the international pressure. Actually, so the woman president who is in prison now, when she delegalized the KTU, so ILO and other teachers unions, including AFT and EI, so they protested. They sent protest letters to them. So she was really afraid of that. And so she thought that she could control the South Korea because she was a president, but she could not control the world. And so that was the most helpful for the KTU. Yes, still.
Yes.
See, in Thailand, we tend to use like a dual pressures. In terms of workers' rights, there's lots of IO complaint, but to be honest, it's like IO complaint has no teeth. So what Thai government and Thai business afraid of are the trade pressure, and it has always been like that. I think so normally we file our complaint to make it like legitimate, because when this decision is made by our body, Committee on Freedom of Association, that it's internationally legitimate, but it has no teeth, to be honest. But most of the time, the real pressure comes from trade pressure. You can look at the recent case that Thailand has to ratify the ILO 188 on working fishing, because there was so much pressure from the EU, and like the largest corporation in Thailand, they export seafood product to EU. So if they get boycott, then this corporation will be in trouble, and these corporations are the one that behind government or the government. So it was weird that this ILO convention was ratified in the military government, because military government wouldn't care about workers' rights for fishers, but you can tell that the trade pressure pushed the corporation to push the government. But saying about that, now it's getting scary, like my friend from Hong Kong mentioned, because Thai government knows that too, and nowadays they try to be less dependent on EU and US export, and tend to lean into more Chinese export, and try to build more Thai with government like China or Russia to lesser degree, but with China, because China would never criticize you on your human rights or democratic records.
And Taxin was in Hong Kong.
Oh yes, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to thank our three guests for coming today, and sharing with us what is important work. And I'd like to, finish by telling you that in the AFT we take our duty of solidarity seriously. And so, if there is a way that we can assist you, do not hesitate to get in touch with us, which you all know how to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have this?
Yes.